Okay, welcome. We are going to do another type of basic knot, and that is going to be our square knots. So I will teach you how to do those now. So as you can see here, we have our piece of driftwood. You can use a dowel or a regular branch, whatever you have on hand for this, because we're just practicing and learning these knots. And then I have 4 pieces of cord here, and they're not very long, you'll see, just because we are practicing, and the size doesn't really matter, but they are attached to the branch using the lark's head knots. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to separate the left 4 cords from the right, and I'm going to work my first square knot. So I always start with the right cord. You can start with the left if you want, as long as you make sure to alternate right and left. That's fine. So what I'm going to do is I have 2 cords in the middle and 1 cord on each side. So I'm going to hold my 2 cords in the middle steady, and I'm going to pull my right cord in front of the left, making kind of this L shape, or this backwards L shape. And then I'm going to take my left cord and I'm going to bring it down in front of the cord, bring it behind the 2 middle cords, and then I'm going to pull it through so that it looks like this. And then I'm going to pinch these 2 middle cords, and I'm going to pull my edge cords until they're tight. Next, I'm going to do the opposite of what I just did, and I'm going to start with the left, make an L. I'm going to take my right cord, bring it in front, tuck the tail behind, and pull it through. Then I'm going to pull this tight. And then I have completed 1 square knot. Now I'm going to do the same with these cords. So again, I'm going to start with the right. I'm going to bring that in front of the 2 middle cords. Bring the left cord down, tuck it behind, pull it through. Then I'm going to tighten them. Then I'm going to do the left one in front of the 2 middle cords. Pull this down, bring it behind, pull that through, and then I'm going to tighten it. So now you can see I have 2 square knots, 1 for each set of 4 cords. Now I can do one of 2 things. I can continue making square knots down, and I'll have 2 columns of square knots. So since I just did a left on each of these, I'll start with a right. Or what I can do is do an alternating row. So in order to do that, this is something that you'll see in a lot of patterns, is alternating rows, where you'll have a certain number of square knots across in one row, and then the next row down, you'll have another row of them, but they're going to be alternating. So what that means is I'm going to take these 2 cords and I'm not going to use them. So if it helps you, you can tuck them up so that you know not to use them. Or you can leave them down. I always leave mine down, but for the purpose of this, I'm going to show you this way. And then I'm also going to take these outer 2 cords on this side and I'm going to tuck them up. Now I have 4 cords in the middle, you can see here, 2 from each knot. This now creates the 4 cords that I need to make my next square knot. So once again, I'm going to start with my right, bring that in front of the 2 middle ones, bring my left one down behind and pull it through. Gonna tighten it, and you want it to be kind of snug up against the knots in the row previous to it. Then I'm going to do my left since I just did the right. So I bring this down, make an L, pull the right side down in front, behind, pull it through. Then I'm going to tighten it. And now I have 1 square knot. So you can see here now, if I pull down my extra cord, that I have 1 row with 2 square knots and 1 row with 1 square knot. So now to make this finish out, I can do a 3rd row with 2 knots again. So what I'll do again is I will split this into the left and right columns of four strands. So I now have my 4 strands here. I'm going to take my right over left, or right over the middle, left over, behind and back. And now I'm going to pull this tight. So now you can see here that this piece is much longer because there's a gap here, and that's totally fine. That's what we want. We don't want our cord to look like this where it's on an angle. We want it to have a gap there because all we want is for it to be even with the knot above it. So you can see here how that's flush up against the knot in our second row. So now I will go ahead and finish this square knot out by doing my left over, right down, behind and through, and then I'm going to pull this tight. So there is that one. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So this time I'm going to do my right over, left down, behind, pull it through. Once again, when I tighten this one, I want it only so that it's flush up against this knot in the second row. I don't want it at an angle, so I do want this gap here. Then I'm going to do my left one, tighten it, and there we go. So now you can see I have 3 rows of alternating square knots. You can do this with many, many more knots, you know, and many rows across. You can do this all the way down your work, as much as you want or as much as the pattern calls for. You will notice that some of your cord is significantly shorter than the others. That's because the cords that are the middle cords don't really do much. They're just there for structure purposes. So those will always be shorter than the rest of your project. If you want to even them out a little bit and add something cool to your project, I like doing this on plant hangers quite a bit. One thing you can do is if you take, so you have your 2 inside strands and your 2 outside strands, what you're going to do is you're going to switch them. So I'm going to take my inside and pull it out and put my inside, or put my outside to the inside. So you can see here that I have kind of a little crisscross situation going on right there. So then what I'm going to do is I will then do my next knot with my new outside. And with this, I like to leave a gap because it looks pretty. So you can leave the gap as big as you want. I usually don't do more than 1.5 inches, 2 inches, just because the wider it gets, the less you see the pretty pattern that this makes. However, it's really up to you and your tastes, or if the pattern calls for it. So then I'm going to finish this square knot off with my left side. And you can see here that now I have another square knot, but I have this pretty pattern and it gave me a little bit of evenness to my cords. So there we have the alternating square knot, as well as how to alternate your cords to even things out.